Good morning and welcome to What's New in SOLIDWORKS 2016 with myself, Ed Hawkins, and my colleague Alex Aprigliano. We're going to take you through the updates in SOLIDWORKS over the next few hours, but just to give you a little bit of a taster, you can take a look at a teaser video here.
SOLIDWORKS has a long history of delivering innovative solutions to make developing products easier. By listening to our community's needs, we're able to deliver tools that are used in production at hundreds of thousands of companies, such as Rethink Robotics. Whether designing single components, incredibly complex equipment, or even entire production lines, SOLIDWORKS delivers practical tools to turn your ideas into products in less time, with less frustration, and with higher quality. SOLIDWORKS 2016 continues our commitment to deliver easy-to-use, customer-focused capabilities. There are more features for speeding up day-to-day design work, new, efficient ways to validate that your product will work before you go into production, added collaboration tools to work across multiple departments, as well as additional practical ways of getting your products to manufacturing. On the launch site, you can view some of the great capabilities in this release. So take a look and make sure to sign up for one of your resellers' launch events for a more detailed look at the next generation of solutions. Make great design happen with SOLIDWORKS.
Okay, so we're going to commence with the first part of our What's New session now. And just to form an agenda for us, this is an order of the things that we're going to go through. So firstly, we're going to take a look at the user interface. Alex will then run through sketching. We'll take a look at the thread feature, changes to sweeps and patterns, the consumer product design updates, assembly modelling, sheet metal, weldments, and we'll finish the first section with the flattened surface tool. So we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at the user interface now. So the first thing you'll probably notice when we jump into SOLIDWORKS 2016 is that the interface has been updated. There's a couple of reasons for this. One is the interface that we have had has been around in its current form probably since around 2008. And the icon set that we had at that point was originally developed for Windows XP and used a very bitmap-based graphic. So, for example, in a couple of releases ago, we saw the introduction of the ability to change the button size, which we can do here. But in the previous versions of SOLIDWORKS, that would cause the button icons to be a little bit degraded when we went to. So here, if we go up to the large size, you'll see the scale of the buttons actually stays quite nice across the interface. So you'll see even towards the closed dialog boxes, they're just a much better quality than we had before. If we just reduce the physical size of the interface here, we'll take a look at another area that's seen some changes. Within the options dialog box under colours, we now have the ability to change the interface brightness. So the default scheme is light, but we can alter that to a medium colourway, or alternatively we can go for a dark colourway as well. So depending on what your preference is for how you want the user interface to display, that's something that we can do quite easily now from the options page. Okay, moving on from there, the command manager has been around for a little while, and one thing that used to frustrate and annoy people is that if you grabbed hold of it, you could move that and undock it from the top of the screen. It could happen when you were working along fairly quickly and trying to access a command from the heads-up toolbar, for example. You grab hold of the command manager and move it underneath to enable that move option. And if it's not something that you want to do at all, you can go into the Customize menu and you can choose to lock the command manager down so it's unable to move completely. Okay, we've had a number of productivity improvements over the years within SOLIDWORKS, and this release of 2016 is no different. I've just minimised a couple of things around my screen just to give me a more visual area to work with, and this is how a lot of people like to work. With things like the S key, we can access the commands that we easily use, but sometimes they're focused around where we are at the point we start that tool. So for example, if we're in edit part mode, we get some edit part mode commands. So introduced for 2016 is something called the breadcrumbs. If I pick here on this face, you'll see in the top right hand corner I get access to what we're calling the breadcrumbs feature. So within here I can access elements that relate to the face, the feature, the body, the part, or the subassembly, which will include things like the mates, and everything's available right at the end of our mouse button. So for example, if I want to change a sketch for that feature, I can go directly into edit sketch mode, make a change to the dimension, update it, and rebuild that feature directly from the breadcrumbs tool. Now, I've just paused here at the moment in edit sketch mode, and there's a number of different ways we can exit the sketch. We can use exit sketch on the sketch toolbar, or we can use the confirmation corner over on the right hand side. If we've got instant 3D turned on, we can double click to exit the sketch as well. But with the introduction of the breadcrumbs, we can now hit the D key to bring confirmation corner right into the center of the screen to allow us to exit the current command. Now the main benefit of that is when it comes to exiting edit component mode, there wasn't an easy way for us to do that prior to this release, but if I hit the D key, I can now exit out of edit component mode and I'm right back to where I started the command from. So we'll see the breadcrumbs tool used throughout the demonstrations that we're doing today, so you can get a good look at how that works. One of the other things that's worth pointing out with the breadcrumbs feature, it always starts in the upper left hand corner, but if you do hit the D key, it will come to where your mouse is as well, so making it much more accessible for you. One of the other things that's changed in 2016 is the section line arrows, so you'll see these are much bolder, much more available for us to grab hold of than they were in previous releases. What we used to find in previous releases that they were a little bit awkward to grab hold of. They weren't ever so obvious, they were quite thin. So now that they're much clearer like that, it's a lot easier for us to get to where we want to be. Another area that's seen some improvements, which we focus on a little bit later, is the make command. If I select this component here, I'm going to access the breadcrumbs. As I can see, there's an interference between the components, and I'm going to grab hold of the mate that I think is causing the problem and edit it like so. You'll see that the first component that I've selected actually goes transparent, allowing me to select through it to grab new references that I want to add, and I can very quickly make the change to that mate to allow that component to resolve correctly. So a nice use for the breadcrumbs feature there as well. If we just zoom out a little way here and access this component, for example, we can have a look through the feature tree, and what we can see is some dynamic visualization of the references displaying in front of us. Now, in previous releases of SOLIDWORKS, we could only display the references in one direction, so we could only see the parents of the feature we were looking at, but we can now see any children from the top level here, so we can choose either the parent or the child, or both collectively together. Another area that used to cause users a little bit more of a frustration than anything was the selection dialogues within tools like the fillet command. So if we look over on the left hand side here, you'll see I've got a number of edges selected within the fillet command, and this box used to be about that size, so it'd probably have 3 selections in it that we could see, and we'd need to scroll through this list to find maybe any fillet edges that had been lost, for example, or if we wanted to add new fillet edges or just review what was contained in that box, it would be quite a laborious job. What we see now is that we can actually resize these boxes to any size that we want. You can also right click in here and auto size those if you want to, and it's much more user friendly in that respect, and that applies across the property managers, so not just specifically for the fillet command. The final update within this user interface section is towards the top. So the search command box along the top here is a great way for us to find commands should we not know where they are. But the search options have been expanded in this release to include My SOLIDWORKS as an option. So My SOLIDWORKS is a great resource for all things SOLIDWORKS. It's a web-based interface which you can create a free account for. But you'll see that the options have been expanded to include that now, but also things like YouTube, Twitter, search for CAD models or blogs, and there is a manufacturer's section as well just here, and you can choose which options of these that you search. Okay, so just to review what we've seen the modernised user interface, the introduction of the breadcrumbs, the child dependency visualization, the ability to lock the command manager, the new triad manipulator, and the introduction of the My SOLIDWORKS search.